Usually oh, there it goes. It always takes a minute before you get that you are
Yeah,
live, but
exactly.
I expect I'll always talk about that because it surprises me every time. Hi, everybody. I'm Ash. I'm Director of Developer Relations at Nylas.
Hi, I'm Blag. I'm Senior Developer Advocate here at Nylas.
Cool. So today we're doing a live stream to highlight something that Blag, you actually recently wrote a blog post about, right?
Mhm.
And oh, cool. There's
There
the
is.
link, the magic link. So wrote a blog post about this cool demo that you wrote and open sourced around using Nylas and to be able to uh, send emails, of course, but also to then run sentiment analysis on emails that have been collecting, say, in a folder or with labels or something like that. So we're actually just going to, in the next, say 15 or 20 minutes, just dive into this. And we're going to start by having a look, not at the code, but first at the user flows. So to set the stage here, there's going to be on one side of the house what the user does. And we're going to just kind of show that workflow. And then on the other side of the house, there's going to be, say, for example, this imaginary company that Blag has created for this example, what they do or what they're experiencing based on that, what's coming in from the user. So just keep that in mind. There's the user flow and the company flow. We're going to first just walk through what those look like, and then we'll get to the fun stuff, diving into the code.
Okay, so let me share my screen as always. And we're going to see here, we have our form. So let's say we have a company called VGX that produce VGX. So then they have like a feedback form. So somebody goes because he tried the eggs, and let's say that he was Iggy Pop.
It always has to be a punk rocker, huh?
Exactly.
Okay. I guess they love their veggie eggs.
Let's say that Iggy is not so happy about them. They think they kind of fair, so
Oh
he goes,
no.
sorry, I don't really like them. And then he just submit.
That Iggy Pop, known for his great manners in emails, I suppose.
Well, he's gonna get a small notification saying that thank you, and that ends the user flow. That's the only thing the user needs to do.
So let's just recap that real quick. Somewhere out there on the web, there's a forum that says, a company, in this case, it's Veggie Eggs, is saying, hey, give us feedback on our product. And then all of their folks that are trying it come in, fill out a form, click a button, they get a confirmation screen, form has been sent.
Yes, exactly. That's the only thing they need to do. So if we go on the company side, they're gonna have a label called VGX. They're gonna have a rule that every new email is gonna go straight to here. So if we can see, we have here VGX feedback from Iggy Pop, Iggy at pop.com. He rated 2, which is fair, and he said, sorry, I don't really like them. But then we also have a bunch of emails that other people sent at different times with different ratings, like 1, 5, 3, 2. And they say like tasty stuff. I ate everything, not bad. So different opinions and different ratings.
From Sid Vicious. All right. That's great. So on the company side, then this is the first part of that user flow, right? Is really just like the emails are collecting with a label inside of Gmail.
Exactly. They don't even need to read them because, I mean, they're there, right? So the application is going to do that for them. Cool. So actually, if we can just now go to the source code. So this is the source code for the form that we saw here. So the form from this. And it's simple. It's just a Flask application that we're going to use to create the feedback. So here, we're going to load a feedback form. And that's going to use Tailwind CSS just to make it look a little bit better. So here, we're just doing like we want to collect the name, the email, choose a rating, put the comments, and then send it back to Flask. So just like a regular form.
Yeah, it's just a web page, right?
Exactly. Here, this important thing, we're going to create a draft. We're going to create the subject, which is going to be Veggie's feedback. and it's gonna have the name, the email, and the rating. We're also gonna pass the comments, and we're gonna send the email to my inbox. Once that's done, we're gonna have a confirmation form, which is gonna be this one, which is just pretty much showing like, thanks, Iggy, here's your email, here's your rating, these were your comments, and it's gonna be redirected to the same page. So when it goes back, it's gonna be refreshed, and he's gonna see this again, but we also gonna have received his email, as we can see here. So that's the only flow we have for that one. So once that's ready, we already collected a lot of emails. So we can go to the interesting part.
Yeah, so why don't we just pause there for just a second, right? This what you just recapped is that's the entire user flow again, right? But we saw it from the user's perspective, and then we got to see a little bit of it from the developer's perspective. So, I think that wherever you're handling the submit button click is probably where we kind of fire off that Nylas connection. So maybe we have a quick look at that real quick at the code level. Now, keep in mind for folks watching, Nylas offers, in addition to our REST APIs, which you can hit directly, we offer SDKs, and here comes the list. It's a Node, Ruby, Java, and in this case, we're using the Python SDK. So, keep in mind it's super flexible, but we're going to highlight this just in terms of like what's happening in Python.
Yeah,
so,
and it's simple as just importing the API client from the Nylas package.
Cool. And then from that, you're loading it and you're passing in credentials, which makes sense, right? To make sure that you're connected to an email account so that when someone hits send, it actually goes somewhere. And then when it comes down to actually calling the Nylas client, let's have a quick look at that. Looks like you're loading it. And then let's just take that line by line real quick.
Yeah, so we're just creating kind of a draft. We're passing what's going to be the subject of the email. We're loading the body of the email, which is going to be the comments. And then here we're saying who is going to receive that email. In that case, it's going to be my inbox. And then when we do send, we have it like in 1 second, 2 seconds. It's pretty fast. So once we hit it, go here to send, it's going to appear
with
here.
Cool. Okay, so that's the entire user flow. You've seen it both from the user perspective and then from the code perspective. We looked specifically at some of the stuff that makes, Nylas makes that super simple to do. Pretty straightforward. And of course, that would work with Gmail and with lots of other email providers as well, which is nice. Yes. Okay, so that alone seems handy, right? But I guess the trick here is that if we stopped the application at this point, then basically what we have is a form that sends an email and receives responses, and then we just have to be sitting there looking at every email that comes in. Kind of hard to, make a sort of like get to establish an understanding of, generally speaking, how are people feeling about our product based on their feedback. So I think that's where you picked up and kind of started another side of this application, which helps the company understand, the general state of how customers are feeling about the product. So let's dig into that. I'd say first, why don't we try similarly, just looking at what does the workflow kind of look like from the company's perspective?
Sure. So we see here they have a lot of emails, a lot of feedback and everything, and we want to kind of consume it in a nice way. So here, I'm just gonna run it, and then we can go through the source code. So I'm just gonna execute here neural feedback py, which is application. When I hit return, what it's going to do is going to read, it's going to go to my inbox. It's going to go to BGX, and it's going to grab each of these emails. It's going to send it through sentiment analysis, and it's going to grab the data, crunch it, send it to R, which is going to create a nice web dashboard showing all the information that we have on our inbox. So it's going to take a couple of seconds with just reading everything. And here we can see, for example, we have 3 ratings of number 1, which is, I think, bad, 7 ratings of 2, which is fair, 3 ratings of 3, which is good, etc. And here we can see that most of the emails were sent on April, and then there was one today on July. Also,
I
we
think was
have
our live demo of sending a message, right?
so we have 7 that were neutral, 7 that were positive, and 6 were negative. That's why we have kind of like a neutral phase. If we had like, let's say, 9 positive, then here would display a happy face. And if we have like, I don't know, 10 negative, here would be kind of like a sad on an angry face. So by just looking at this, you can know how people are reacting to your product.
And so the main takeaway for the company side of this is like, this could literally be anything. And we'll dig into what data is actually driving all of this, right? Like you're not stuck with the sort of unimpressed face that we're using here, but it's just neat to kind of show off like different ways that you might leverage the sentiment analysis data. So that's more of the sort of user workflow for this demo application or example application that Blag has built. So on the company side, which is, okay, we've got all these emails, they all contain feedback. Generally speaking, we're looking to see, how people feel about our product, and it would be great to have a dashboard that does that. So the dashboard side of things could be anything you like, but in this case, Blag, you've made it in R and have chosen these visualizations to create based on that data.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I could use Python, but I really love R. It's kind of made for data science, so that's what I kind of did that.
Cool. I really love R. I think I'm going to quote that when I reshare this later.
So here it's pretty much simple. I mean, here we just kind of loading our environment tokens like client ID, client secret, and access token. We're again importing the API client from the Nylas package. Here is important part. Here we're saying Nylas messages where, which is gonna say like, go into my mailbox and read from the BGX label. So read all the emails that are here on my BGX label.
And again, that label was assigned to each email because the way you set up that form side of the application to label each inbound. So that's like the kind of flexibility you can have in terms of like, when things come in, how are we catching those and labeling them or otherwise organizing them.
Exactly. And then here I have 4 arrays, one for rating, one for sentiment, one for score, and one for date. And I also have the same, but as a strings, and you're gonna see why. So here, I'm pretty much looping all the emails, all the messages that I have. Let's say I have 10. So what I need to do is just simply pass the message ID. So I don't even need to read the body or anything of the email. I just need to pass the ID to the neural sentiment analysis, and that is going to take care of extracting the body of the email and giving me back the sentiment and the sentiment score.
Yeah, so let's replay that real quick. You can see up there on line 14, like Blag has explained, you're grabbing all those messages. And then in the for loop, starting on line 24, then you're going in and all you're really doing at this point, at least to pass to the sentiment analysis stuff, which is the next step, would be pretty cool. But when you pass that, all you need to do is pass that message ID. And then the sentiment analysis engine is going to go in and find the message with that ID and then do magic, which I think we'll get into in a second.
It's going to return the sentiment and it's going to return the sentiment score. Here, as you can see, I'm using a split because I want to get the rating. Because if you see, we set it up that in the form, in the title, we're going to have the rating next to the email. So that's why here I'm just taking the rating, so I have it separate. Then I'm taking the sentiment analysis. And then here I'm getting the date on which I get that email, because that's important for one of the graphics. So once I have all that, what I'm going to do is just grab that array and join it in a long string separated by commas. Why? Because I need that for R. Because here, we're going to call R.
I love that print statement, colon R.
It's going to run as a process, which is going to call the R script, which I have here. It's going to launch it in a browser. And it's just simply going to pass the rating, the sentiment, the score, and the date. So that R can process it and can do something interesting with it, which is creating the dashboard.
That's cool. So, and on the R side of things, you've got the blog post, you've got the repo is also open sourced, and I believe that's linked in the blog post, of course.
Yes.
So that's something people can really jump into and just play around with. But like we said, you could use this is what you use to visualize your data is entirely up to you. You don't have to use R. You could use literally anything. So I think, for folks that have interest in that, we'll let them kind of jump into the blog post and then the repo. I think one of the things that would be interesting to look at, though, here is more on the Nylas side of things, like sentiment analysis, right? We're handing a bunch of message IDs to a sentiment analysis method in the Nylas Python SDK, and then stuff is happening. So I guess maybe we just start with what are we actually expecting to get back here? You're assigning this to a variable on line 27 called message analysis. Cool. Yes. What is that?
So this one is, like I said, it's going to return the sentiment and the sentiment score. So if you see here on the dashboard, the sentiment is going to be either neutral or positive or negative. And the sentiment score is going to be what we see here on the smiley face. So actually, if we go here at the R side, we have here, if the score is lower than minus 0.5, then it's pretty low, so it's going to be an angry face. If it's between minus 0.5 and 0.5, it's going to be neutral because it's not like good or bad. But it is greater than 0.5, then it's going to be a happy face. And that's being returned by the sentiment analysis Nylas endpoint.
Right. So that score, right, it sounds like it could be anywhere between a -1 and a +1. Yeah. And then from there, of course, sky's the limit on what you want to do with that information. But that's the kind of you can expect to get back a number within that range and go from there.
Yep. So we're going to have that. And then we send it to R. We just can simply format it in a way that R is going to understand. We're going to create a data frame, which is pretty much like a table. And then from here, we're just going to create the different charts. So like passing the date, passing the sentiment. So then we're going to be able to have this, right? So how many ratings of 3 we had, how many ratings of 5, on which date. So we see that most of them, we have 6 on April, we have 1 on July, and here we have how many emails we have in total, and if they were neutral, positive, or negative. And of course, we could do more than that. We can do that information to create all sorts of graphics. I just choose these 4 just to make it light and fun, especially the smiley face.
And I love that the smiley face is on a graph. But it's really cool. So yeah, again, if we kind of play this back again from the entire workflow here, from the user perspective was, jump in, fill out a form, hit submit. And on the back end, that submit button then calls the Nylas API to send that email with a certain label and formatted in a certain way to, in this case, Gmail. Great. Yes. User flow is done. And then on the company side of things, what you're doing is over time, you're amassing all of these messages with user feedback. And of course, what you want to be able to do is analyze that in different ways to understand how you stand with your customers. So what you can do in that case then is great. You want to pass all of that stuff to the sentiment analysis engine, like what Nylas offers. And in order to do that, you first are going to read in all of those messages, also using Nylas to get the IDs, pass each one to the sentiment analysis engine. And then from there, you get all of this data back that you can just do whatever you might want with in order to start to understand how you stand with your customers. Super cool, man. All right. I think for today, that'll wrap us up. We're almost right at 20 minutes. So look at the timing. So let's call your attention to a couple of things. Blag, you just pulled up the blog post. So there's the URL for the blog post. Check it out on the Nylas blog. It's Python sentiment analysis with R and shiny. So all R land as far as I'm concerned. And then is there anything else we want to show people? I think your repo is linked in the blog post, so it's probably better to start with the blog anyways, right?
Yeah. So I mean, if you go to the blog post, everything is completely explained on how to install everything, how to run everything. Even the images for the icons, the smiley faces are there, so everything is in there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very nice of you to even provide smiley faces for folks. But yeah, it's fun. Check it out. You can give the repo a run locally. So anyways, Blag, thanks once again for walking us through something really fun. This was definitely a deeper example than we've gone into in previous live streams, and I'm just excited that we were able to get all the way through it. Yeah, check it out. If you sign up for Nylas, you can give it a try with both the sending of the messages, but also receiving, and even eventually, or even the sentiment analysis as well. So lots of really cool stuff to play with.
Yep. Cool.
All right. Well, see you. Great Wednesday, Blag. See you again tomorrow, I think.
Tomorrow for a new stream.
Awesome. Bye, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Bye.